Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast, the last one of 2018. It's December 31st. A lot of news to get to, but we're just going to get straight to it. The Week 17 results, so many interesting results. Some changing in the playoff picture. We'll go through the 1 o'clock slate first and the 4 o'clock then the night game. The Cowboys defeat the Giants 36-35. Cowboys are a 4th seed. Giants are picking 6th in the draft. The Bills destroyed the Dolphins 42-17. Good finish to the Bills from what was a year that a lot of people thought they overachieved it again. Dolphins disappointing finish to what was once a promising season. Lions defeat the Packers 31-0. Despite that season-ending shutout for the Lions, disappointing year one under Matt Patricia. Green Bay, obviously disappointing year. Aaron Rodgers, concussion, that's why they were shut out. The Patriots defeat the Jets 38-3. Patriots get the first round bye. Jets a disastrous finish to a disastrous season. The Panthers defeat the Saints 33-14. The Panthers are keeping Ron Rivera. Saints, they're just getting ready for the playoffs. Falcons defeat the Buccaneers 34-32 on the game-winning field goal by Matt Bryant, as predicted by me on this podcast. Disappointing year for both these teams. Texans defeat the Jaguars 20-3. Texans win the AFC South. Disappointing year for the Jaguars. Doug Marrone's coming back next year. To the 425 games, the Chargers defeat the Broncos 23-9. Disappointing year for the Broncos. Chargers are your 5 seed. The Chiefs defeat the Raiders 35-3. Chiefs are your 1 seed in the AFC. And a disappointing year for the Raiders comes to an end. The Rams defeat the 49ers 48-32. Rams are your 2 seed in the NFC playoffs. The Bears defeat the Vikings 24-10. Bears are your 3 seed. Vikings blow an opportunity to get the last playoff spot in the NFC. The Steelers defeat the Bengals 16-13. But the Ravens defeat the Browns 26-24 to win the AFC North, so the Steelers are not in the postseason this year. The Seahawks defeat the Cardinals 27-24 on a game-winning field goal by Sebastian Janikowski. They are your 5 seed. The Eagles defeat the Redskins 24-0. They're your last wild card team in the NFC. And last but not least, the Colts defeat the Titans 33-17 to win the final playoff spot in the AFC. Now we're going to discuss some coaching changes. Marvin Lewis has been fired by the Cincinnati Bengals. This was a long time coming. Also been fired Vance Joseph of Denver, Adam Gase of Miami, Steve Wilkes of Arizona, Todd Bowles of the Jets, and Dirk Cutter of the Bucks. There could be more to come, maybe even in the playoffs too. I think Bill O'Brien and Jason Garrett are both potentially coaching for their jobs this weekend. So don't rule out the possibility of a playoff team firing its coach. But yeah, we have 5 already. I'm going to repeat them. The Bengals have fired Marvin Lewis. That's the newest one that broke. The Dolphins have fired Adam Gase. The Broncos have fired Vance Joseph. The Cardinals have fired Steve Wilkes. The Jets have fired Todd Bowles. And the Bucks have fired Dirk Cutter, so there's 6. And like I said, I think there's going to be more to come, too. College basketball firing. The UCLA Bruins fired Steve Alford. This news broke yesterday. That is not really that surprising. They're 6-5 and probably won't make the tournament this year. He's been on the hot seat there for a while, but Lonzo Ball led that team to the tournament last year. 2 years ago, it was a disaster. 3 years ago, they didn't make the tournament. They underachieved, and then 1 year they made the tournament in a year that they shouldn't have made it, and that was the same in Alford's first season. I'm interested to see who they can go after. Don't forget that they tried to get Greg Marshall the year Wichita State made the Final Four. They wound up settling for Alford. That probably was a mistake now looking back. We'll get more into this as the coaching carousel goes around in college hoops. Mike Maycock was hired as the Oakland Raiders general manager. I think that's a smart hire by Al Davis in that front office. And I think that he'll do a nice job. It's better than John Gruden being your GM. Maycock did a fine job on the NFL Network doing the draft coverage and what each team should do. And best of luck to him as he goes to the Oakland Raiders. I'm going to go through the college basketball results. I'm just going to do the scores and then look ahead to today's games because I have college football games to pick and other things to do before we sign off for 2018. Number 2, Michigan defeats Binghamton 74-52. Dartmouth defeats New Hampshire 76-68. Holy Cross defeats Iona 78-71. Cornell defeats Navy 61-50. Central Michigan defeats Indiana South Bend 123-76. Miami of Ohio defeats Evansville 70-67. West Virginia defeats Lehigh 78-68. Akron defeats Carnegie Mellon 82-55. VCU defeats Rider 90-79. Presbyterian defeats Jacksonville 72-67. Ohio defeats FIU 68-66. Oakland defeats Youngstown State 76-74. NC Central defeats Wilberforce 91-44. Bowling Green defeats Tennessee Martin 94-80. Clemson defeats Lipscomb 84-67. St. Louis defeats Appalachian State 83-55. Eastern Illinois defeats Northern Alabama 81-70. Wright State defeats Indiana Purdue 72-64. Minnesota defeats St. Mary 71-53. Hofstra defeats Drexel 89-75. Alon defeats James Madison 68-65. William & Mary defeats Towson 71-61. New Mexico State defeats Colorado State 88-68. Western Michigan defeats UC Riverside 73-64. New Mexico defeats Southwest 103-47. Northwestern defeats Columbia 75-54. Delaware defeats Northeastern 82-80 in double overtime. Rhode Island defeats Middle Tennessee 72-60. Purdue-Fort Wayne defeats North Dakota State 90-87 in overtime. Northwestern State defeats Champion Christian 86-65. Central Arkansas defeats Lyon 62-47. McNeese defeats CU Hardersburg 91-73. Charleston Southern defeats Pinemont International 111-65. Western Illinois defeats Denver 78-60. Oral Roberts defeats Omaha 87-84. Alabama defeats Stephen F. Austin 79-69. Georgia defeats UMass 91-72. Missouri State defeats William Woods 110-56. Northern Kentucky defeats Illinois Chicago 73-58. SIU Edwardsville defeats Missouri S&T 79-66. LA Brooklyn upsets Fordham 60-57. Detroit Mercy defeats Cleveland State 73-61. And USC defeats UC Davis 73-55. Today's games, not a big slate. 1 o'clock, Hartford, Boston College, Marshall, Virginia, Monmouth, Penn, Centenary, UMBC, Chestnut Hill, Maryland Eastern, UNC, Asheville, Vanderbilt. That's at 2 o'clock. North Greenville and South Carolina, NJIT, Duquesne, Montana State, Northern Arizona, Oberlin, Kent State. 3 o'clock, Texas Lutheran, Sam Houston State. 3:30, Albany, Niagara. 4 o'clock, Creighton, Providence, Idaho State, Eastern Washington. 5 o'clock, Weber State, Idaho, Northern Colorado, Portland State. 6 o'clock, Alabama A&M, Pepperdine. 8:30, Montana and Southern Utah. And 9 o'clock, Cal State, Bakersfield at number 7, Gonzaga. NBA, same thing, just going to go through the scores. We'll get to today's games. The Magic defeat the Pistons 109-107. The Timberwolves defeat the Heat 113-104. The Raptors defeat the Bulls 95-89. The Mavericks defeat the Thunder 105-103. The Trailblazers defeat the 76ers 129-95. And the Lakers defeat the Kings 121-114. Today's slate, only 7 games. 3 o'clock, Hawks Pacers. 6 o'clock, Magic Hornets. 7 o'clock, Grizzlies Rockets. NBA TV, Celtics Spurs. 8 o'clock, Timberwolves Pelicans, Mavericks Thunder, 9 o'clock, Warriors Suns. NHL, only one game was played last night. The Golden Knights defeated the Coyotes 5-1. There's a lot of games today. 12:30, Predators Capitals, 1 o'clock, Canucks Devils, 6 o'clock, Islanders Sabres, Flyers Hurricanes, Penguins Wild, 7 o'clock, Senators Blue Jackets, Rangers Blues. 7:30, Panthers Red Wings, 8 o'clock, Kings Avalanche, Lightning Ducks, 8:30, Canadian Stars, 9 o'clock, Sharks Flames, and Jets Oilers. Now I'm going to pick my college football games for today and tomorrow, since tomorrow we're not doing a podcast because it's New Year's Day. So we are going to pick every college bowl game remaining, including the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl. We're obviously going to save the national title pick for next Monday's podcast. First up, you have the Military Bowl, Cincinnati, Virginia Tech, 12 o'clock on ESPN. Cincinnati 10-2 on the year, 6-2 in conference play. Virginia Tech 6-6 on the year, 4-4 in conference play. The Bearcats were unbeaten early in the season and lost twice late in the season. The Hokies had a very strange season and still ended up extending their bowl appearance streak. The Bearcats are the better team this year, and I like them in this spot. The pick is Cincinnati. Hyundai Sun Bowl, Stanford 8-4, 6-3 in conference play. Pittsburgh 7-6 on the year and 6-2 in conference play. The Cardinals quietly went 8-4, but it felt like more of a disappointment. The Panthers were a big surprise this year, winning the Coastal Division. Bryce Love is not playing in this game, but that won't be a problem for a Cardinal team that's played a majority of the season without Love, as they'll get the win. The pick here is Stanford. The Red Box Bowl, Michigan State versus Oregon, 3 o'clock on Fox. Michigan State 7-5 on the year, 5-4 in conference play. Oregon 8-4 on the year, 5-4 in conference play. Both the Spartans and the Ducks have had disappointing seasons. These teams faced each other in 2014 and 2015, and each won once. Justin Herbert is playing and coming back to school, but I don't love what I've seen from him this season, and I like Sparty to get the win. The pick is Michigan State. The Liberty Bowl, number 23, Missouri against Oklahoma State, 3:45 on ESPN. Missouri 8-4 on the year, 4-4 in conference play. Oklahoma State 6-6 on the year, 3-6 in conference play. This is poised to be a very high-scoring game. The Tigers finished their season very strong. The Cowboys had a wild season with so many close calls. Drew Lock has had a strong year throwing the ball for the Tigers, and I like him to lead them to a win. The pick is Missouri. The Holiday Bowl, number 22, Northwestern against number 17, Utah, 7 o'clock, Fox Sports 1. Number 22, Northwestern went 8-5 on the year and 8-1 in conference play. Utah 9-4 on the year, 6-3 in conference play. Both of these teams wound up losing in their respective conference championships, and now they're here. The Wildcats finished their season strong. The Utes have suffered a number of key injuries this season on the offensive end. Give me the Cats as Pat Fitzgerald gets it done again as an underdog. Give me Northwestern here. The Gator Bowl, NC State against number 19, Texas A&M, 7:30 on ESPN. NC State 9-3 on the year, 5-3 in conference play. Texas A&M 8-4 on the year, 5-3 in conference play. The Wolfpack quietly had a great season this year, and Ryan Finley has been solid at quarterback. The Aggies have overachieved this season, and that's credit to Jimbo Fisher, who's done a great job this year. Kellen Mond has been good for the Aggies at quarterback this year, and I think he leads them to a win. The pick here is Texas A&M. Tomorrow's bowl games. The Outback Bowl. Number 18, Mississippi State against Iowa, 12 o'clock on ESPN2. Mississippi State 8-4 in the year, 4-4 in conference play. Iowa 8-4 in the year, 5-4 in conference play. Both of these teams were ranked at some point of the season. Nick Fitzgerald is playing his last collegiate game for the Bulldogs. The Hawkeyes have had some fine games and others were clunkers. I trust Fitzgerald in his finale and for Joe Moorhead to get his first bowl win. So give me Mississippi State. The Fiesta Bowl. Number 11 LSU against number 8 UCF. 1 o'clock ESPN. LSU 9-3 on the year, 5-3 in conference play. UCF 13-0 on the year, 8-0 in conference play. The Tigers have overachieved this season, and Ed Orgeron deserves a ton of credit. The Knights' story has been phenomenal, with 2 straight unbeaten seasons at risk. Mackenzie Milton is recovering from a dislocated knee, and now quarterback is Daryl Mack Jr. The Tigers' offense is not very good, although Neither is the Knights defense. That said, the unit I trust the most is the Knights offense. So give me UCF to complete their second straight unbeaten season. So the pick here is UCF. The Citrus Bowl, number 14 Kentucky against number 12 Penn State, 1 o'clock ABC. Kentucky 9-3 on the year, 5-3 in conference play. Penn State 9-3 on the year, 6-3 in conference play. The Wildcats have had such a phenomenal season and find themselves in a nice bowl game. The Nittany Lions took a step back without Saquon Barkley on their team. That said, the Lions are the better team here with the better quarterback led by Trace McSorley. The pick is Penn State. The Rose Bowl. Number 9 Washington against number 6 Ohio State, 5 o'clock ESPN. Washington 10-3 on the year, 7-2 in conference play. Ohio State 12-1 on the year, 8-1 in conference play. Both of these teams won their respective conference games. The Huskies underachieved, and Jake Browning did not have a great season. The Buckeyes losing at Purdue cost them a berth in the college football playoff and didn't have Nick Bosa most of the year. Dwayne Haskins has something to prove in this game as he's potentially auditioning for an NFL team in this spot, and I like him to lead the Buckeyes to a win in Urban Meyer's final game as head coach. The pick, Ohio State. The Sugar Bowl. Number 15, Texas against number 5, Georgia, 8:45 ESPN. Texas 9-4 in the year, 7-2 in conference play. Georgia 11-2 in the year, 7-1 in conference play. The Longhorns find themselves in a good bowl game despite a record that isn't that great. The Bulldogs arguably would have been a playoff team if they did not lose to LSU in the regular season. Jake Fromm is a great quarterback, and he'll lead the Bulldogs to a beatdown over the Longhorns. So give me Georgia, because I think they're going to be extra motivated, because I think they thought that they deserved to be in the Final Four, especially after seeing Notre Dame get their butt whipped like they did, and Oklahoma looking like they were getting their butts whipped as well, as they made that game competitive late. Now I'm going to reveal what I thought were my best memories of 2018 and look at the 2019 by predicting some things in each sport. My favorite moment in the NFL this year was the Stephon Diggs catch against the Saints that brought the Vikings into the NFC title game. That was just a phenomenal play. The radio call by Paul Allen was sensational. The call by Joe Buck on Fox was also sensational. Case Keenum did not have the greatest season in Denver, but last year with that Vikings team, he had a fine year with all that talent. It's just so disappointing that team is not in the playoffs this year with a better quarterback in Kirk Cousins. And Cousins had the knock in Washington that he couldn't win the big game, and that proved to be true in year one with the Vikings. But that finish last year in the playoffs was just sensational. The best NBA moment of the year. There's a lot of good ones. I'm going to say LeBron James hitting those 2 buzzer beaters in a playoff in which a lot of people thought that the Raptors, the 76ers, or the Celtics were going to be in the finals instead of LeBron. LeBron beat the Raptors on a buzzer beater, and he beat the Pacers on a buzzer beater. One was in Game 3 in Cleveland, and the other was in Game 5. The Indiana one was Game 5 in Cleveland. And those 2 buzzer beaters galvanized the team, especially the Indiana one. If the Indiana one doesn't happen, they lose that series, and Indiana's playing against Toronto, and Toronto probably wins that series. And then they move on to face the Celtics in the conference finals, and who knows who wins that series, because Toronto would have had home court advantage because they had the best record in the East. And those are just so great moments. And now LeBron on the Lakers, obviously hurt right now, but he'll come back. He's dramatically changed the outlook of the Lakers this season and for the next couple years. But those buzzer beaters are just sensational. Baseball, this was a tough one for me. I'm going to say the Game 3 2018 World Series that went 18 innings and which finished off a masterful performance by Nathan Eovaldi in not so good fashion for Eovaldi, as Max Muncy hit the walk-off home run for the lone win of the Dodgers in that series. So it didn't really matter to Boston that they lost that game because they ended up winning the series anyway. And my best NHL memory had to have been the Golden Knights in year one of their existence, going to the Stanley Cup Final, having some big wins in overtime and some dramatic blowouts along the way. They were unbeatable at home. College football memory of 2018 calendar year was Alabama winning the national title game over Georgia in overtime. Georgia kicks the go-ahead field goal in overtime, and in Alabama, it was on like 2nd and 26. Tua Tagovailoa to Devontae Smith for the game-winning touchdown. What was a phenomenal football game. And I'm looking forward to seeing the 2019 championship game featuring Alabama and Clemson. College basketball, it has to be the run by Loyola Chicago, front-runned and by Sister Jean, who is such a loyal fan, and she gained so much media fanfare and attention as Loyola Chicago is making their run unexpectedly in the Final Four. But a lot of things broke right for them in the tournament. They had a buzzer beater. Virginia obviously losing as a 1 seed to a 16 seed. You can't forget about that in terms of great NCAA basketball moments of 2018 as well. But the Loyola Chicago run with Sister Jean was just sensational. And now some predictions in each of the 6 major sports. So let's start with the NFL. I'm going to have a couple of them. I'm going to rattle off a few of them. I'm going to say that some playoff coaches get fired after their teams lose playoff games. I don't know who it will be. Maybe Jason Garrett or Bill O'Brien. I don't think it'll be Matt Nagy or Doug Peterson. I don't think it'll be Sean McVay. I don't think it'll be Sean Payton. Maybe it's John Harbaugh. Maybe it's Anthony Lynn. But I'm going to say that one or more coaches get fired after losing playoff games. Because we've seen that before. The Broncos with John Fox a few years ago. The Giants probably should have did that with Ben McAdoo in 2016, but didn't. So it wouldn't surprise me if a coach is fired after a playoff loss. But I'm saying the candidates for this are, to me, Jason Garrett and Bill O'Brien, with the dark horse and John Harbaugh, and maybe Anthony Lynn if the Chargers lose. Because I could see the Chargers doing that. NBA. This is probably my favorite prediction of 2019. But I'm going to say that Kevin Durant goes to the New York Knicks. The same people that are saying that LeBron James was going to the Lakers at this time last year, the people that are saying Kevin Durant is going to New York now. And I'm buying it. A lot of people think it's true. And that would be the biggest free agent get in the history of New York sports. And I mean that. Because the Knicks have failed to sign a marquee free agent. And every time they tend to do so, they have been past their primes. And the last one being Amari Stoudemire. And that really didn't work out for them, although it was a good start. And then they traded for Carmelo Anthony. And Amari just wasn't healthy throughout his Knicks tenure. But if they somehow get Kevin Durant, and which I think is going to happen, and then get in a free agent point guard like a Kemba Walker, say they get R.J. Barrett in the draft, Kristaps Porzingis, Kevin Knox, and Durant in your front court, and in the back court you have maybe Kemba Walker and R.J. Barrett. That's definitely a contender in the East to go with Boston and Philly. And I don't know about Toronto because Kawhi Leonard might be gone. But they've built themselves a nice foundation in the Eastern Conference. How about the Atlantic Division? I just said 3 teams in the Atlantic Division that the Knicks, in theory, would be competing with in Toronto, Boston, and Philadelphia. And then add New York to that mix, and then the Atlantic Division is suddenly the best division by far in the NBA. That is the best division in the NBA right now in terms of top-heavy, but it's not the deepest division. The deepest division right now is probably the Northwest Division, which features Oklahoma City, Utah, Minnesota, Portland, and Denver. That's probably the best division in terms of depth right now. But the Atlantic Division might be something to look out for in a year from now, if my prediction comes true. And in another NBA prediction, I'm going to say that Kawhi Leonard signs with the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers are poised to make a big move this summer. They'll be in play for Durant, but I think Durant goes to New York, and I think Kawhi ends up in Los Angeles. So, Kawhi to LA, but the Clippers. MLB, I'm going to say that Manny Machado signs with the Yankees and helps lead them to their first World Series since 2009. Bryce Harper signs with the Dodgers as they'll go to their 3rd consecutive World Series. So Yankees-Dodgers feels like destiny right now, as that's what I thought the World Series was going to be at this time last year. And then maybe one more baseball prediction for you. I'm going to say that the Chicago Cubs will move on from Joe Madden as my other baseball prediction. I feel really good about that one because he's on the last year of his contract. And things are tumultuous there right now. And they'll miss out on Bryce Harper. And there's a lot of questions there. Yu Darvish hasn't worked out. They're not going to fire Theo Epstein or Jed Hoyer. The fall guy is, I think, going to be Joe Madden. And an NFL prediction I forgot to mention, I think Le'Veon Bell signs with the Indianapolis Colts in free agency. That's just a monster fit for him. It'll be an upgrade over Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack's fine, but Le'Veon Bell would make the Colts a Super Bowl contender and perhaps the team to beat in the AFC because he is such a good talent. He'd be a great security blanket for Andrew Luck and running behind a great offensive line. He immediately becomes their best option offensively. Luck, Bell, and T.Y. Hilton in that offense would be great. College football. I'm going to try to hit a home run here. My prediction will probably change in August, but your 2019 playoffs. Alabama, Clemson, and I don't know. That's hard. Definitely those two. And I don't know who else. So let's just go with Alabama and Clemson both make the playoffs again for the 6th and 5th straight years, respectively. And then one more college prediction. I'm going to say this happens sooner rather than later, which means it'll happen within the next couple weeks rather than during the season. I'm going to say that Houston hires Dana Holgorsen and West Virginia is going to be searching for a new head coach. Cliff Kingsbury was reportedly offered the Houston job. He declined it to stay at USC to be their offensive coordinator. And I'm going to say that Dana Holgorsen leaves West Virginia to go to Houston. And speaking of coaching changes, Miami, Mark Richt retired, and now they have hired Manny Diaz, their defensive coordinator, to replace him. He was supposed to go to Temple. He backed out of that Temple job to go to, or back to Miami to be their head coach. This reminds me of a few years ago, Chris Beard was initially the head coach at UNLV and then backed out of that to become the head coach at Texas Tech. looks like a good move for Chris Beard right now. He's thriving with Texas Tech, and UNLV probably is not really regretting it per se, but it's a bad look on UNLV. We'll put it that way. I can't say they regret it because it wasn't their decision. It was Beard's decision to move on from UNLV to go to Texas Tech. But this is what that reminds me of. And back to predictions. College basketball, speaking of which we were talking about the parallel for the Diaz situation, or my parallel for that was Chris Beard. A couple of them, I'm going to say Duke wins the national title. That should be no surprise. They have the best two players in the sport, perhaps in R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson. And Williamson and Barrett will be the first two picks in the NBA draft. Then I'm going to predict that UCLA hires a Power 5 coach that's currently coaching. I don't know who that is. Well, not necessarily Power 5. Let's go Major 7. So we'll expand it to Big East and AAC a little bit. And maybe it's Greg Marshall. Maybe it's somebody else that gets the UCLA job and tries to lead them back to glory. And one more college basketball prediction, I think we'll see multiple double-digit teams in the Sweet 16 yet again. Before we go, I'm going to do my final best bet of 2018. Going to be brought to you by DraftKings. I'm going to do a moneyline parlay, as I normally would. Only going to wager $1. I don't know if I'm going to throw college football on here, because all these games have been going in different directions. So let's go with a little bit of college hoops. Let's go with Virginia against Marshall. Montana against Southern Utah. In the NHL, let's see if I like anything here. The Columbus Blue Jackets over the Ottawa Senators. Let's go with that. We'll go with the Avalanche over the Kings. The NBA, we'll go with the Pacers over the Hawks. The Hornets over the Magic. I'll hold my breath with that one because I think Orlando can beat them. Oklahoma City over Dallas. I just don't see the Mavs winning back-to-back games against the same opponent. I don't trust the Pelicans against the Timberwolves, even though the Timberwolves are on the second of a back-to-back. And I don't trust the Warriors, but I'm going to take them at Phoenix. So it's only $1 to win, $4.63 with a payout of $5.63. That's it for the podcast today. I'll be back on Wednesday to recap all the college bowl games. We're going to do some speculation on coaching replacements for all of the NFL jobs. And we'll go over anything else that happens in the world of sports. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.